Hello everyone, my name is Th, and today I want to share with you my investigation into the use of role-play activities in improving high school students' communicative competence. So this is my table of contents. So first I will talk about my rationale, aims, objectives, research question, hypothesis, scope, and significance of my study. Then I will share with you some literature review and the theoretical background of my research, and then I would discuss the research methodology and the discussions of my findings, and the last one is a conclusion with implications, limitations, and suggestions for further research. So first, let's talk about the reason why I decided to conduct this research. It is undoubtable that English has become the global lingua franca these days, and it plays a tremendously important role in gathering worldwide information, acquiring science, technology, engineering, and mathematics knowledge, and executing international exchange and cooperation. And due to the significance of English, pedagogical approaches to teaching and learning English have taken much precedence in recent years. And we all know that in the past, the emphasis on teaching was on grammatical forms and written language. However, these days it is widely accepted that the focus of English teaching should be on communicative proficiency rather than on mere mastery of structures. And among the adopted methods that could assure a certain extent of communicative competence among students, role play has been regarded as an innovative and interactive teaching tool which helps to improve the students' language communicative competence. And that's the reason why I decided to carry out this research. So as for the aims, I want to investigate the use of role-play activities in improving high school students' communicative competence. And on top of that, it is a reliable background for teachers who wish to use role-play for their practice of English teaching and for students to improve their language learning. So in order to achieve the aim, I set out 4 objectives. The first is to explore the situation of using role play in English classes at Nguyen School in Da Nang City. Then I examine the perception of English teachers and students on the use of role play and to work out the benefits of role play in improving students' communicative competence and find out the challenges involved in adopting role play. Therefore, there are 4 research questions. The first one is how role play implemented at Nguyen Gifted High School. The second one is what are the students and teachers' perceptions on the use of role play at Nguyen Gifted High School. The third question is what are the benefits of role play in improving students' communicative competence. And the fourth question is what are the challenges faced by teachers and students when using role play in English classes. Also, I have put 3 hypotheses. Hypothesis number 1, both teachers and students of English at Nguyen Gifted High School have a positive attitude towards the use of role play in English classes. Hypothesis number 2, there is a positive correlation between the use of role play and the improvement of students' communicative competence at Nguyen Gifted High School. And hypothesis number 3, problem exists in the application of role play in the context of teaching English to students at Nguyen Gifted High School. And as for the scope of my study, due to the limitation of time, the research is confined to 100 students, including 50 grade 10 students and 50 grade 11 students, and also 5 English teachers at the school. As for the significance of the study, I hope that it will make a humble contribution to enhancing students' interest in learning English towards conducting role-play activities and prompt them to become more fluent in specific real-life communication. So now let's talk about my literature review. So for domestic research, I have some reference here. And for international research, I based on the research of Smith, Nguyen, and Ho. And let's move on to the theoretical background. So first, let's take a look at what is foreign language teaching and learning. So according to Moller and Catalano in 2015, foreign language learning and teaching refers to the teaching or learning of a non-native language outside the environment where it is commonly spoken. So what is communicative language teaching? As Richards and Rogers 2010 pointed out, communicative language teaching aims to make communicative language competence the goal of language teaching and develop procedures for the teaching of the four language skills that acknowledge the interdependence of language and communication. Okay, so I've mentioned a lot about communicative competence, and let's define it. So actually, there are a lot of definitions of communicative competence, but in my research, I will adapt the format from Cannell 1983. So he divided communicative competence into four kinds of competence. So it is grammatical competence, which is the extent of mastery of morphology, syntax, semantics, and phonology. And the second is sociolinguistic competence, which is the appropriateness of communication depending on contextual factors. The third one is discourse competence, which is the cohesion and coherence of groups of utterance. And the last one is strategic competence, which is the set of strategies that are put into use when communication fails. So my research will based on this format. There are some typical techniques of communicative language competence, such as authentic materials, scrambled sentences, language game, picture strip story, and role play. And one of the activities contributing to enhancement of communicative language competence is role play, according to Paulson and Bruder in 1976. So let's define role play. So according to Ledoux, he defined role play in the simple way. So when students assume a role, they play a part, either their own or somebody else in a specific situation. So play means that the role is taken on in a safe environment in which students are as inventive and playful as possible. While Harmer thinks that students are given different situations and they have to talk and act with their new character accordingly in role-play activities. According to Abraham, role-play is a task in which a person portrays him or herself or assumes a real-life or fictitious identity for purposes of presenting an event as interpreted by the character. And in my research, I also decided to choose the types of role play defined by Brian 2001. So he divided role play into scripted and unscripted role play. And as for the format, first we need teacher preparation, and then it is student preparation, and then it is the role play stage, and the last one is the evaluation stage. This is from Yelty 2013. As for the teacher roles, actually, the teacher roles in classroom could be diverse, from a controller to a facilitator to a spectator or even a participant. And this is what they have to do in the procedure. According to Hearn, there are 6 major steps. The first one is to decide on the teaching materials. The second one is to select situations and create dialogues. The third one is to take the dialogues for role plays. Next is to have students practice the role plays. Next one is have students modify the situation and dialogues. And the last step is evaluate and check students' comprehension. So moving on to my research methodology. Uh, after research, after I decided to choose the qualitative and quantitative research design and also the triangulation of data. So it means that I use three types of samples. It is questionnaires, interviews, and observations. So as for the setting, it was carried out at Lê Quý Đôn Gifted High School in Da Nang City, and the school used the New English textbook, the tiếng Anh 10, 11, 12, 10, 11, and 12. So it has a communicative approach, and a unit includes getting started, reading, writing, listening, speaking, language, communication, and culture, looking back, and project. So we can see obviously the student have access to a communicative approach. As for the sample, so it is the responses from the student's questionnaire, the transcript from teacher's interview, and detailed notes from observation forms of role play application collected, recorded, and carefully transcribed. And as for the participants and population, so as I mentioned, there are 100 students and 5 English teachers. Yeah. So now I will talk about the data collection. First, I attended 8 English classes which implemented role play to observe students' performances and how teacher conducted role play activities. The data were recorded and collected by means of an observation sheet. And in the middle of the second semester, questionnaires were delivered to 100 students. And after that, the 5 English teachers were interviewed to get an insight into their perceptions of role play. As for the data analysis, so first, the survey data were transferred from handwritten tallies to spreadsheets and table, and the data were quantitatively processed and visually presented in charts, graphs, and tables. Secondly, records of student role play presentations from observation sheets and teacher interview responses were analyzed for a deeper insight into the use of role play. And finally, hypotheses were verified with the data analyzed from observations, interviews, and questionnaires. So now let's look at the finding. So this is the number of percentage of student preference in activities, and we can clearly see that role play rank the second in the types of activities that students like the most in order to improve their communication skills. So as for the role play implementation, it can be seen that the role play is occasionally implemented in English class. And this is the student perceptions on the use of role play. So as you can see here, most of them have a positive attitude towards the use of role play activity in classroom. It shows that they feel motivated and excited to participate in such activity. And this is the teacher perceptions. So one pointed out that the ultimate aim of language teaching and learning is students' ability to communicate. And she agreed that one of the most effective methods to improve students' communicative competence is role play. Another teacher said that some students in her class don't like role play as they are too shy to perform, or they are not confident with their speaking and acting skills. Also, one said that it helps them to evaluate students' communication skills and have an appropriate plan for improvement in the future. And actually, one said that it is a tool of formative assessment, which is conducive to helping the teacher monitor student progress and make proper adjustment to ensure their continuous improvement in classroom. And that is the teacher's perceptions. Now let's move on the use of role play in improving students' communicative competence. So as I told you, I adapt the format of Canal, and there are 4 kinds of competence here. So as we can see from the charts that students generally can improve their communicative competence when involving in role play activity. However, there's one thing in terms of grammatical competence is that they can't improve the spelling of a word after role play. So it's clear because role play is a spoken activity and spelling is a written form. So yeah, so we can see it clearly, right? And from the observations, this is what I observe, and for the 4 criteria like grammatical competence, social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence, it has a positive results. So here are some pictures that I have taken when students role play at the school. So you can see that they show a lot of interest, and also they engage in the group discussion very actively. However, of course, they have some difficulties when doing role play. So for the first statement, I struggle to understand the new lesson when role play is applied. Actually, a lot of students disagree with this one. So we can see that role play is quite an effective teaching method, but they have some problems, like the preparation time is too short because each class only have 45 minutes. So it's not enough for them to prepare. And also they are lacking in real life experience. Some of them have problems with limited English skills, and also they feel too shy to perform, or their acting isn't good. So that is the results of finding. So let's discuss. So as for hypothesis 1, it was verified. So both teachers and students have a positive attitude towards the use of role play. Indeed, it is ideal for creating an interesting and motivating class atmosphere. Also, it's also improved the teamwork, the cooperative situations, and also it's a chance for students to rehearse for real life situations, improve their shyness, acting skills, critical thinking, and creativity. And also role play helps teachers to capture interest and attention from the students, and it's also a form of formative assessment to teachers. For hypothesis 2, there's a positive correlation between the use of role play and the improvement of students' communicative language competence, and it could be inferred from the results of study that the role play helps students improve their communicative language competence from the result of the analysis on the questionnaires that I already showed you. And for the last hypothesis, problem exists in the application of role play in the context of teaching English to students. So, of course, beside the strengths, role play activities has some problems, and some of them are students' lack of confidence, acting skills, English skills and real life experience. And with the biggest difficulty both teachers and students encounter when conducting role play activity is the lack of time. Let's move on to my conclusion. So, well, the hypotheses have been approved according to the results. And role play techniques are important in English language teaching and learning because it helps to improve students' communicative skills, which is the main focus of English teaching and learning in the context whereby communicative competence of students is pivotal to boosting student capability to communicate with confidence in the social and professional environments. So this is actually from the National Foreign Language Project. So as its main goal is to help most students, Vietnamese students graduating from secondary, vocational schools, colleges, and university be able to use a foreign language confidently in their daily communication. From my research, we can see that role play is a suitable pedagogical method in the process of achieving the National Foreign Language Project's goal. However, we can conclude that there are still some challenges. So this is my suggestion to overcome the difficulties. So as for the teacher, they should choose the material that are appropriate to the students' level of English proficiency. As we can see that a lot of some students say that their English language, their English skill is not enough. So it's important for teachers to choose the suitable levels for the students. And also before assigning a role play task to students, teachers should make sure that students have fully understood the instructions and are well equipped with the needed background knowledge together with the language input in terms of appropriate vocabulary and language patterns. And also the roles of the teacher should be flexible depending on each situation. And one thing that I recommend is to have each student keep a reflective journal according to things he or she has learned from the interaction and also the suggestions to the group that performed the situation. As for the students, I suggest that they should revise the previous lesson carefully and be well prepared for the new lessons. And of course, they can enjoy English drama club inside and outside school, and they can even establish one club to boost students' communicative competence. However, so although the study was carefully designed and based on reliable data, of course, there are some unavoidable limitations. So the qualitative design posed a limitation. It was that it relied on the honesty and accuracy of the participant answer to the questionnaire and the interviews. In addition, due to the limitation of time, observation were carried out only 8 periods and the number of participants were limited too. So if the experiment had been done in a longer time, the result could be more reliable. And suggestions given to the study were not suitable to all students to help them enhance their communicative language competence. So for further research, I hope that another researcher could involve more participants or at other school, colleges, or university. And I suggest that you can conduct an investigation into the efficiency of role play activities on students' communicative language competence. Yeah, so this is my reference. Yeah, and yeah, that's also the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Nguyễn Thị Đoan Thanh, for the presentation. Okay, everyone, can we give her a big hand of applause for her effort and contribution? Okay. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, okay, so if you have any questions, feedback, or comments for our presenter, feel free to raise your hand, right? I will see. Yeah, thank you. You have a lot of big thumbs up from a guest here. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat box. Okay, so okay, so while we wait for the questions from the attendees, I also have a questions for you. Okay, so your topic is about the implementation of the role play activities in improving high school student communicative competence. Okay, so my questions for you is: are there any differences amongst the age groups or the participant that will result in different discussion or the results of your research? So do you expect anything of that when you change the age group of the participants?
So if I change the age group of the participants, I think that there will be difference because for each age group, they have different levels of English. And also, as I mentioned in the research, there are a lot of factors that affecting students' performance in role play, such as their shyness, their life experience, their acting skills. So each age group has different characteristics when it comes to yeah, the factors that I already mentioned. So of course there will be some difference when I change the targeted research
Okay.
people to research. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your explanation. Okay. Let's see if we have any questions, comments from the attendees. So I think that the student communicative competence is something that we do really need to focus on, because most of the time, compared to like previous teaching methodologies which highlight
Yeah.
more the importance of linguistic competence, these days we are talking a lot about the more communicative approach, right? Okay, so yeah, feel free to discuss or feel free to share any of your comments, feedback, or if you have any questions, you can ask our presenter. Okay, so I have a guest which with the account uh, Nhân Đỗ Thành, right? Okay, sorry if I misspelled your name. Okay, so do you want to ask or recommend anything to our presenter?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can hear you
so first
clearly.
and foremost, I would say thank you so much for your presentation about the role play activity for high school students. But actually, I do suppose that I just mean that this method or this approach is not quite new today. That somehow it's still it's still apply in a common ways at high school or some school in Vietnam. Yep. But actually, I just mean that because for I just because my concern here is for for the shy students or for the students who are not willing to join the activity, because as you know that for in terms of communication language for the students, I think it's not really easy to get them involved in activity, and it's really hard to push them to use to speak English all the time, and it is the point. And to make sure that because make sure that role play activities are helpful or useful enough, we have to to you because you have been applying this kind of method at at the university classes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at
So
high,
yeah, high school. Yeah, sorry,
yeah, I think it's a gifted high school, so students are really talented.
all right. So
Yeah.
I think there is a big difference between because the context situation for students for learners for the gifted high school because their English proficiency is somehow different from the other locations or the other
Yes.
students as well in general. So I just mean that I don't I mean not for gifted high school students, but just for normal students because and I used to interact with teenagers and I think
Mm.
it's not really easy for us to ask them or recommend them to use English all the time because they're shyness. Because they say they don't have enough vocabulary, don't have the words to express ideas or something like that, and to create the motivation for them to speak out is not that easy. So, but I just mean so just a small concern here for those students. So if you deal with those students, what should we do, or what should we make them get involved to the role play activity? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your recommendation and your question. Actually, the research is conducted in a gifted high school, but the students I chose was not major in English. So actually, I think that their English proficiency is the same as other students in general, but their confidence level may be higher, I suppose. Yeah, so I see a lot of concerns when it comes to motivate students. So that's the reason why I decided to conduct this to encourage teachers more to apply it in their teaching their classroom so that students could speak more and it improves their confidence. So as the result, so I as for the finding of the research, most students find it interesting, and also some of them find it improves their confidence level. So I think when teachers apply it in their classroom, it can slowly but surely improve the students' confidence level. And if it is a too challenging task for them, I guess that the teachers should be really careful with the types of materials that they choose. So it should be I mean easy enough for the students to conduct. And yeah, so maybe they could have some kinds of incentives in the classroom, like giving students plus points or that kind of thing, and to motivate them to be more confident when it comes to communication. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. But I still one thing to consider here. I
Yeah.
just mean that because in case if you are succeed in boosting their confidence, okay, the
Mhm.
problem is solved. But in case that we try many different ways, but we cannot motivate them up, I just mean that because I just mean they have this like the inners afraid inside of them,
Mm.
and I scared that when they say something in English, because you know that in the context of teaching the Vietnamese students to learn English is kind of challenging. To make them speak is somehow is not really it's not that easy. And because I just mean, okay, they said something wrong and they will be laughed at by their friends in the classroom, and then from that time they close they close their they close themselves. They don't want to open anymore. And for these situations, so what are possible resolutions, or kind of how you deal with those students? Because beside the students who are willing to join, although they can speak a little bit more day by day, but then with those students, like they because in the mind that they supposed, okay, we are Vietnamese, it's like much better for them to communicate together in Vietnamese language to ensure the mutual understanding. But then and then and it's really I don't know how to say, but because like when I deal with those situations, I I you know like I I I do not know exactly what we should do, because we cannot leave them behind, but we should try to help them. But for those kind of students, for those kind of situations, what are possible recommendations or something that we can make them more like get involved in the classroom activities. Because I think, for example, in the classroom we have 12 students and 10 of them are willing to join, and maybe their speaking ability is not really sound enough, but their willingness, they are happy to join and they're happy to share with the people. Maybe their speaking is not good enough, it's not those things are not important. But then later, I think those students are okay, but the rest of them, they extremely shy, and they suppose that they said something wrong, and then they will lose their face and they don't want to speak anymore. And if you were the teacher in these students, so what should we do? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who aren't for those who aren't willing to cooperate or yeah, so I guess that so normally for role play I usually apply it in the post stage of our classroom. I mean, so that we have the pre-stage, the Y stage, and the post-stage. So for the pre and the Y, I have provided them with all the necessary language that they can use in their role play activity. And if that student isn't proficient enough to speak, maybe we can give them a scripted role play. As I mentioned, we have scripted and unscripted role play. So yeah, so for those who can't, for those who are not really good at English, first to give my recommendation is to first give them the scripted role play and just get them familiar with their role in a conversation and try to guide them gradually to the unscripted role play. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for your for your
Thank
answer.
you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you a lot on contributions, feedback, and suggestions are cordially welcome. Okay, so we have another questions from Miss Lee Thị Phi Nhung here. Is that how do the teachers give feedback on the students' work on role play activities? Can you give me some tips? Thanks a lot.
The role actually, so for role play activity is a kind of free activity. So I guess that the feedback should be after the role play performance. Teacher shouldn't like interrupt the students while they are performing, and that helps them to confidently speak up. And after the role play activities, I think that each teacher should have a list of criteria that they are expecting students to improve in that class. For example, in a classroom, when we are talking about the theme environmental protection, and you have given students a list of vocabulary, and you want them to apply the vocabulary into their role play performance. So you will have a list of criteria that students should do to be able to successfully apply the vocabulary that they have just learned into their performance naturally. And yeah, so it depends on each class, the objectives of the class. So yeah, so in order to give feedback, teachers can make a list of criteria based on the objectives of that class. I think so. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you for the all of the contribution, all of the explanation from the presenter. Okay, another questions that I would like you to help us. Okay, address. Okay, so as we all know, teaching English in Vietnam is a little bit more like English as a foreign language, right? So, do you think that the limitations of the like language exposure will affect uh, enhancing students' communicative competence? Because most of the time, students will only speak and learn English in the classroom. They don't have many opportunities. I'm sorry, to speak English outside of the classroom. So, do you have any suggestion for this?
So suggestions for students speak in the classroom.
I mean, outside the classroom, there will be a few opportunities for students to practice English. Okay, so do you have any recommendations as English teachers we can help our students with?
Yeah, so to be specific in my project, in my research, so I'm talking about role play. So I suggest that students should participate in English clubs. And as I mentioned, to be more specific, they can set up English drama clubs so they can collaborate to make movies and be actors. So it would be a really fun, motivating, and effective when it comes to communicative competence outside the classroom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentations. Okay,
Thank
so
you
once
very
again,
much.
yeah, thank you for being here with us in TESOL Camp 2021 Beyond the Limits. Okay, so wish I wish you all the best, and also in the futures, I hope you can join with us in the coming activities. Thank you, Miss Nguyễn Thị Đăng Thành. Okay. 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 So everyone, ladies and gentlemen, joining with us in this event is not only the live presentation. There are also record videos that sent from the presenters. And now here, I would like to show you the two pre-recorded videos from the two more presenters who are graduate students and also young researchers in our field. So first, I would like to share with you the, okay, so I would like to share with you the first presentation from Ms. Nguyen Thị Thảo Mai. The topic is about an analysis of the use of lexical collocation in English majors writing. So in case you have any recommendations, suggestions, and questions, you can type in the chat box. And after the presentation, the questions will be delivered to the presenters and they will be answered to you later. Okay, so now I want to share with you the first pre-recorded videos from Ms. Nguyễn Thị Thảo Mai.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the presentation of an analysis of the use of lexical collocation in English majors writing. My name is Nguyen Thị Thảo Mai. Let's have a look at my agenda. So now let's jump right away to the introduction part, shall we? I would like to kick off this presentation by quoting a saying, without grammar, very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. Words are not used alone, but often combined with each other, and they are called collocations. There are many research shows that students have difficulties in using collocations in their writing at different levels, and the causes of those collocation misuse are lack of knowledge and strategies used. In Vietnam, there are very few collocational analysis in student writing, especially at upper intermediate level. Therefore, this study tries to answer the following questions. First, what types of collocations are most commonly used by Vietnamese upper intermediate learners in their writing? Second, are they able to use collocation correctly? If not, what types of collocations are frequently misused? And the last one is, what are plausible explanations for the collocation violations? Now let's come to the literature review part. First of all, because this research mainly focused on lexical collocation, so there are 7 types of them, and this is based on the combination between Benson's model and Hughes' model. In terms of approaches, there are 2 main approaches, corpus-based approach and phraseological approach. For corpus-based approach, it is the bottom-up approach, and it's based on their frequent occurrence to detect the collocations. So usually it is used to identify collocational errors. On the other hand, phraseological approach is the top-down approach, and it adopts traditional linguistic criteria to classify collocations and analyze errors. However, in Vietnam, there are most of the study use tests to check students' collocational proficiency, and there are also very few studies employ corpus-based approach. So this study employs both the approach to analyze student ability in producing collocation. Now, let's come to the next part, which is methodology. In terms of research design, as mentioned above, there are corpus-based approach and phraseological approach in this study. Besides, quantitative and qualitative methods are employed in this study. In terms of data collection, there are 37 English majors in Writing 1 class, and the instruments include a 2-part survey. The first part is to ask for personal information, and the second part is to ask for student opinion on difficulty levels of collocation as well as the sources of those grievances. And there are also 66 compositions. Oxford Collocation Dictionary, OCD, and Corpus of Contemporary American English, COCA. In terms of writing analysis process, researchers follow a certain steps. First of all, word combinations are checked in the essay are checked by using OCD. And if that combination does not appear in the OCD, then COCA corpus is used that the mutual information score of 2 and frequency score of 50 are set as standard to filter the data. Unacceptable collocations are those who do not appear in both OCD and COCA corpus. Last but not least, deviances are classified qualitatively. Now let's come to the results part. In terms of survey, students believe that the most challenging type for them is verb prepositional phrases, and negative transfer account for 89% of respondent choices. Only 10 out of 37 students learn new words in collocation. No student used collocation dictionary. In terms of writing, there are 79 out of 872 collocations are unacceptable. Verb noun and adjective noun are the most used and most flouting types. So let's come to the very last part of this presentation, discussion. So when comparing the survey results and the writing analysis, it shows that in terms of similarity, collocation is not a nasty problem for English majors. This supports some earlier studies and oppose to some earlier studies, some previous studies, which state that English major students have lack of knowledge in using collocation. And both the survey and the writing analysis also show that narrative transfer is the main factor of deviances. But when it comes to the most problematic types of collocation, the survey showed that verb prepositional phrases are the most challenging one, but the writing analysis showed that verb noun and adjective noun are the most challenging ones. So what can be withdrawn from this comparison is that students do not recognize. The second discussion of this is that the sources of deviant collocations include negative transfer, synonym, and analogy. This is in line with some previous studies. In terms of implications, first of all, for further research, this study has shed light on the combination between corpus-based approach and phraseological approach in collocational analysis. And further research should look into a larger sample size with different proficiency levels. Second of all, in terms of teaching and learning practice, for English teachers, it gives the teacher a clear perspective on collocation deviances. Therefore, it will enhance the efficiency in teaching those in classrooms. Second, in terms of English learners, they are encouraged to use collocation dictionary and learn new words in collocation to improve the collocational proficiency. This is the reference for my presentation, and thank you for your listening.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that is the presentation from Ms. Nguyen. Okay, so in case you have any feedback, suggestion, or questions, you can type in the chat box, and the questions and all your concern will be delivered to the speaker and will be answered later after the workshop. Okay, so maybe we have 1 minute for your questions. Okay, so now I will show you the next pre-recorded videos, and the topic will be from Ms. Phạm Ngọc Yến Vi, who conduct a research of a comparisons of the effects of two repeated reading methods on the FL learners' reading rates. Okay, so I will show you the pre-recorded videos right now.
FL learners' reading rates. This is a poster session. There are three main points in my presentation: introduction, literature review, and methodology. Okay, for the introduction, the background of the studies, Reading plays an essential role in students' academic lives, and university students need to be fluent readers to meet the high reading demands. And reading speed is one crucial area of fluency. So, reading rate has been widely concerned in L1 setting. It often begins with Labert and Samuel's 1974 Automaticity Theory AT, operationalizing AT through a repeated reading RR technique to improve reading rates, suggested by Samuel 1979. This could be done in two ways: unassisted repeated reading UARR and audio-assisted repeated reading AARR. And there are a lot of L1 empirical literature explore RR. However, the L2 area has received much less attention. Statement of the problem: since Samuel 1979 operationalized the AT as an RR method, one of the most often employed interpretations have been UARR and AARR. However, their effects have not been explored and compared in the course of one investigations. So this study intends to address this gap. And you see also the purpose of the study is to explore and compare the effects of two reading rate improvement methods on undergraduate EFL learners' reading rate gains. The significance of the study is to help understand the theory, procedure, and potential effects of these two methods to choose the most suitable approaches, and it is hoped that this result will help to inform educators by expanding RR literature about the comparative effectiveness of UARR and AARR. Now let's move to the literature review. Here is the figure of the conceptual framework. There are three theories concerned in this thesis: automaticity theory, I-1 theories, and routing theories. And together, they support the two reading rate improvement methods explored in this thesis and the rate gains they provide. Automaticity theory was first suggested by Labers and Samuels 1974. According to AT theory, reading requires attending to many tasks at the same time, and both decoding and comprehension require attention. Thus, readers need to recognize words automatically to be able to pay more attention to higher comprehension process. There are three levels of word recognition development: non-accurate stage, accurate stage, and automatic stage. That's the stage of fluent readers. Otherwise, those who have difficulties with automaticity have, however, read slowly, thus the comprehension is affected. I-1 theory is considered the comfort zone where students can easily read confidently and fluently. Readers start reading with easy material and then they move forward to another higher level. That's suggested by Bay and Bamford, 1998. Baker 2015 explained that providing material at the I-1 level is an essential and integral part of RR and a key component of automaticity to increase their reading rate. The last theory is routing. Routing refers to the reading at a rate where readers understand almost the meanings of the material, and readers adjust their reading rates to meet the aim of their reading, which likes a driver shifting the gear of a car, each being faster than the later. And here is the table of reading rates in basic reading processes. Routing was initially conceptualized in L1 setting. However, it has been argued that it is also applicable to L2 readers, and the minimum for such reading is suggested: 300 words per minute per covered, while others have argued that 200 words per minute. Smith 1988 or Dublin 1991. Repeated readings, Samuel's 1979 operationalized the theory in the form of RR to improve students' automaticities and thus increase students' reading rates. And he explained that RR could be done either with or without audio assistance. In the case of without audio support, the student will read the passage silently. However, in the case of audio support, the student read the passage silently while listening to the audios, and after several rereadings, the audio support is no longer necessary, and the student reads silently without listening. John Howard, 1997, noted that Samuel's work had inspired many RR techniques and applied to the instruction of special needs and mainstream learners in both forms. However, it was absent the RR applicability in ELL context and a comparison of the two techniques. The unassisted repeated reading in EFL context. Uh, Anderson 1983 specifically focused on the unassisted option and operationalized the RR techniques as a four-step UARR procedure. There are other researchers studying UARR for the audio-assisted repeated reading with AFL learners. Uh, Taguchi 1997, for instance, provided an early study with AARR and made several important contributions that would guide later literature. And there is a great deal of research done in L1 setting, but no study in the second or foreign language has investigated the effects of RR. Besides, Taguchi had overlooked Anderson's earlier work with UARR. There are other studies citing his procedure. However, AARR method still has some downsides. The research gap, despite the use of these two methods in EFL context, the effects on EFL learners' reading rates thus have not been explored and compared in the course of one investigation, and this study intends to address this gap. Let's move to methodology. For the introduction, five hypotheses are both related to the effect of these two methods on students' reading rate gains. Setting: the FFL at TDTU will be chosen as the research site for the study because TDTU is well known as a research institution, and the researcher has been studying BA and MA there, so she knows the program and the student. Treatment on data collection period. Data will be collected in the 2021 and 2022 school year for 9 weeks. Here is the research design. This study will conduct the experiment this research in two groups, UARRG and AART. The participants, there are approximately 50 second-year students in the FFL classes, and they will be divided into two groups based on the result of a pre-course assessment. To protect the participant, the researchers access to the sites and classes. And she gave an invitation or informed consent form in their L1, that's Vietnamese, and no pressure on participation, as well as not affecting course grades or the participants' relationship with either the researchers or the course teacher. Encouraging participation in the study, the researcher will explain the study and collect consent form in the first class meeting. In extrinsic motivation will also be employed, like every week a gift voucher will be given randomly to 3 participants in each group as a thank you for their participation, and the intrinsic motivation will be explained that the study may help to improve their students' reading skills. Pre-study assessment. Pre-reading assessment will be given to identify participants' reading levels. It will include a 1-minute reading rate assessment to determine the students' reading rates. The material used in this study is rated readers in ebook form. The participants are encouraged to use computer tablets or iPads because these have the similar screen size. When COVID-19 is gone, the traditional version of the test will be applied. And the specific test used will be chosen from the Henneman rated reader library using 3 quantitative and 1 qualitative indicators. 3 quantitative indicators including vocabulary, the test readability levels, and the amount of overlapping vocabulary present in the test, while qualitative indicators including a subjective analysis of the test and where other methods shown to contribute to readability will also be considered. Pre-test. All the participants in both groups will be given a pre-test and this will be the score on the first reading of the first RR. Unassisted repeated reading group will receive UARR treatment for 60 RR sessions and treatment will be adapted from Anderson 1993 UARR procedure and the procedures will further be adapted from Baker 2015. The procedure will be begin at the beginning of the chapter and the researcher will control the time with a stopwatch and the participant will read for 1 minute and at the end of 1 minute the students will stop reading and mark the last word they have read and then they will take a 1 minute break and step 3 the participant will repeat step 2 with the same material as in the first passage 3 more times. And step 4, the participants will take a 2-minute break, then they will repeat step 2 and step 3 with the second passage. And step 5, the participants will take another 2-minute break and then repeat step 2 and step 3 with the third passage. And the last step, the researcher will collect the reading rate sheet for each of the 12 readings. This means that 4 readings per passage and record them on a record sheet. So the UARR procedure will be conducted for 5 days, which will result in 60 RR readings. The audio-assisted experimental group will also receive an AARR treatment using 60 RR. While treatment, however, will be completed using a 12-day schedule as diabetes procedure employs 5 RR per session and treatment will be adopted from diabetes at on to 2010. And here is the procedure. The participants will read an approximate 500 word statement and while recording the time on the time log sheet. And step 2, the participant will read the test a second and the third time when listening to the audio tape. And the third step, the participants finally read the test a fourth and fifth time while timing themselves for each reading and marking each time on their time log sheet. For both treatment procedure, all instructions will be given in the student's L1 that is Vietnamese by the researchers and their performance will not affect their course rates. To ensure construct validity, submitting the record sheet is entirely anonymous and voluntary. And the final record sheet will be masked without any identifying personal information during data analysis. Process it will consist of the read rates for the first reading of the last treatment and which is following the standard procedure in this field of the study. The last one is data analysis. It's a hope that the parametric test can be utilized. A pair sample t-test is used to evaluate the pre and post performance of the UARG and AERG, and an independent sample t-test will be used to compare the results between the two groups. The data will be analyzed to determine if the assumptions of the parametric test have been met, and if the parametric test cannot be employed, non-parametric tests will be utilized. That's it, the end of my presentation. Thank you for your listening.
Okay, so that is the end of the pre-recorded sessions from Miss Mai Nguyen and Miss Vi Phạm. So I think that we have learned a lot of wonderful ideas from our presenters today, and I would like to send our appreciation to the presenters of TESOL Camp 2021 in Room 1 Language Acquisition, Second Language Acquisitions.